there are a lot of local Chinese companies that expand to the global market by using this strategy, building a strong presence in its domestic country, because it can leverage a very strong potential in the domestic Chinese market and also leverage the strong relationship, close relationship with Chinese government. By doing so, with a strong presence in the domestic market, it can expand internationally very firmly. That's the case of our client today. Huawei is one of the leading Chinese telecommunication equipment vendors in the world market, and it is expanding its business into other markets around the world, including Canada. However, it seems like the strategy that it used by building a strong presence in the domestic country actually is like a double sword. Because by doing so, many countries around the world right now is claiming that Huawei has an unfair advantage, and they are using that unfair advantage to grow in the global market, as well as the fact that it has a strong relationship with Chinese government, so it leads to the conspiracy that it is using some cyber spying method with other countries right now. That's the problem of Huawei. So we are here to propose the effective and practical strategies for Huawei to get out of this problem and maintain its growth sustainably into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. My name is Sushawut, and let me introduce you to my team. Starting from the far left, Mo, Ekasit, and Sirin respectively. We are team The Enigma from Thammasat University, Thailand, and we are here, as I have told you, to find the solutions for Huawei for a new era of growth. So please, next please. So the strategy we recommend to Huawei today is rebuild and re-emerge strategy. This strategy consists of two sub-strategies. The first one is to rebuild trust. We believe that trust is a very important component, so it has to bring in Canada government's trusted entities into the company, as well as leverage the global credentials and Canada presence for building trust in the future. That's the first aspect of our strategy. The second one is to re-emerge as a world leader of telecom market. In short run, we tend to expand to enterprise and handset market in Canada, building a strong presence in Canadian market, and then in long run, we expand into other market, especially in Europe. We see that this is a new strategic battlefield in the future. Next, please. So that's the overview of our strategy. So let's have a quick look at the competitive advantage of our company, Huawei. First, Huawei produce upmarket equipment at a cost lower than other competitors, even with the leading competitors in developed countries. Huawei still produce good quality, good performance at very much lower cost. Secondly, Huawei has a strong innovation capacity, as data in the case suggests that Huawei has 16 R&D centers, 28 joint innovation centers, 45 training centers worldwide, and it can also do research and development in China at a lower cost than other competitors. And lastly, Huawei has a very strong presence, as we know, in Chinese market and also in Asian market. These are all the three competitive advantages of Huawei right now. So next, we look at the current strategy that the management of Huawei want to pursue. It is the globalization strategy, and the objective of this particular strategy is to integrate the base resources globally to its global value chain. That's the objective. How can they do so? They can build on local resources and needs, and then when they have local resources, they also feed its value chain with global resources. This creates a very strong global value chain, and at the end, it's continuously developing innovation based on customer preference. These are all of the aspects of globalization strategy. However, we see that in order to make this globalization strategy become successful, there are two key or critical success factors. Number one is trust. Huawei must be trusted by the global market. That's the first one. And secondly, Huawei should also have a strong presence, not just only in Asia, in China, in Canada, but also all over the world. That's the next objective. So, however, by knowing that these are the two key issues of globalization strategy, we also see that there are issues, some problems in these critical success factors. Firstly, Huawei is now losing its trust. That's a big problem. After US government blocked Huawei, other governments, many other governments, for example, Australian government, UK government, Indian government, they also raised the question about the confidential information of the country, because Huawei may using its cyber something spying method with this country. So that's a problem. It creates a trust problem among not just only government but also on consumer in Canada and other markets. And secondly, it has a weak presence in other markets. For example, European market, the percentage of revenue of Huawei from European market is negligible. Is very small, negligibly small, comparing to the revenues from other markets. So we want to make sure that we can increase the market share of European market in order to make this globalization strategy become true. Ladies and gentlemen, our case objective today based on these analysis of ours, we see that the problem or the question here is how to rebuild trust for Huawei. After it loses some trust because of the place of other governments around the world, how can we build trust? Secondly, how to increase the global presence. All of these combined together will lead Huawei to grow sustainably in the world market, and that's our objective. Next, I will pass on to Mo in order to lead you through our first strategy, which is to rebuild trust.
Thank you, Suchavun. So in our first strategies, we want to rebuild trust of the Huawei. So as we can see from the case that the Huawei has a lot of great products, service, and a good intention under the strategies of globalization. But Huawei gets stumbled many times, often gets stumbled because they don't trust us. The government don't trust us. They ban us and block us. And they blame us on the excuse of the cyber spying threat to the countries. So, next slide please. So we want to solve this and by rebuilding trust. But because of building trust is about the audience. So we have to categorize two of our audience to communicate with them. The first is a government, and the second one is a customer, including enterprise and also a normal customer. Because you believe that different audience need different words. So for the government, the Chinese government, because the first thing that make they don't trust us, because we are involved and have some kind of relationship. They think that we have a relationship with the Chinese government. For example, like our founder is related to the People Liberation Army, or we have a excuse of the unfair cheap loan from the state-owned Chinese bank. But yeah, this is the fact that that somehow we cannot reject. But we look at the roots of the problem of all this trust that we don't have. It's not about this Chinese relationship, but it's about transparency. So we think that if Huawei can establish the transparency and show to the government that we are really honest about it, we are sincere about this, we can gain trust in the end. So how we going to achieve this? We form the three levels of transparency. So we look at the operating process, and we see that in this process, we can assign or put the guy who the government or Canadian government trust in this all process to help to ensure that we are transparent about this topic. We do not do any spying things. So we start off at the top of the organization. So we can say that the government can assign the guys they trust in our executive or our board to look at our process, operating in the big picture. Also, in the level 2, we want to ensure this trust by letting them assign or give the employee or the engineer or IT department that the people to our company. And the last one, to increase the trust at the highest level. The government, like the Canadian government, can bring the external auditors to come to check our process, how we work, and we assure that they're going to ensure them and make them trust us. So next is about customers, so including enterprise and general customer. And by doing the first recommendation with the government, if the government trusts us, we are sure that consumer and enterprise gonna trust us more. But there's still some group of customers that have a skepticism about us, and we look at in their mind. And what is their mind is, who are you? What is Huawei? oh, this is just a Chinese company, and they have a perception of the low quality service or low quality product, or they are still concerned about the cyber securities. So how are we going to communicate with them? So this is our next strategies. So our strategy is to communicate with them through the different channels to our customer, including maybe when we contact to the enterprise, we have a salesperson, or doing a TV commercial or something like this. But the most important thing is about the message that we're going to communicate to them and make them trust us. Our message is going to be, we are accepted by the customer around the world. We have a reputation of this, and we think we can leverage this reputation to make them trust us. As you can see, we are ranked at the second place in the global wireless network equipment provider. We beat the Nokia Siemens. And also we have strong performance and won 40% of all contracts around the world. And this message is going to make them trust us. And by doing these two recommendations with the governments and also the consumer, we assure that Huawei can establish trust in our customer mind. So next, I will pass on to Sirin to talk about second strategies.
Thank you, Mo. After we had already established how to regain trust back from the Canadian market, what is the next step? The next step is to expand to fully become a globalized company. We need to expand. But however, what questions do we need to consider? We need to consider where we want to expand and at what time we want to expand. And in this case, in the short term, we want to expand in Canada market. After we had rebuilt our trust in Canadian market, we want to capture its market share. And secondly, in the long-term plan, we want to truly emerge as a global leader, and that is why we want to penetrate the global market next. And this we would have a different focus in different markets. In the Canadian market, we want to focus on consumer as well as enterprise businesses, in addition with the carrier equipment that we already had core competency on. And in the global market, we want to focus on wireless technology and 5G, which will come in 2020. We think that this is the future, and it is the direction that Huawei must go to. So next, let's move to the analysis of which market actually do we want to choose to focus in Canada. So right now, here's the current market share. You see we have a very dominant market share in carrier network. But then let's take a closer look. We see that the current business is selling telecommunication service as well as providing maintenances in those telecommunication service. However, there are some challenges. There are some challenges in this case because first, we see that the profit margin is relatively low. The profit margin is only 4% comparing to the carriers that we work with, and this is due to the pressure coming from those carriers that they want a really low cost equipment to complement with that carrier. So in this case, what do? We think that this might not be the growth driver for us in the future, and that is why we want to change the focus into other market. However, this does not mean that we would that we would not care about this carrier network market at all. But we want to explore further growth potential in other market. Next, let's look at the second market. Here, we look at the consumer and enterprise market. What kind of product are we talking about? These kinds of products are handset products, are cloud computing, are storage products that we want to provide to consumer and also to the enterprises. We see opportunities in this market. The first opportunity is that two of our biggest competitors, Nokia and Ericsson, has already divested this division. They have already left the market. And secondly, we see that there are a large double-digit growth in wireless sector. And when these wireless sector grow, we think that what they would need is the carrier that goes with it or the handset that goes with it. So we think that there is an opportunity and we should go in and catch it. So next, after we had established that this is the market that we want to go into, what should be the focus when going into it? First, we want to position ourselves as having low price but high quality, targeting low end and middle end. And in this case, we think that they already target our two main competitors already target these two markets, so we already ensure that there is a market for these handset and also enterprise products. And secondly, we want to bundle with network carrier. One of the core competency of Huawei in Canada is that it has partnered with a lot of carriers, with a lot of major carrier combining market share of more than 50%. And in this case, we see that Huawei is partnering with Bell and Telus. They can bundle with these network carrier to be able to sell their handset alongside with these mobile network carrier. And in this case, we think that it would enhance both their sales and both our sales. So it is a win-win situation in this case. And lastly, we want to also increase R&D on enterprise technology because we think that is a good market to go into. And next, after Canada, what do we do? We think that this leads us to long-term plan. In the medium term, we want to have the presence in Asia, and in the long term, we want to go to Europe. And here is the reason why. So first, we want to focus on Asia Pacific because they are emerging economy. The growth potential is huge, and we want to strengthen our position in this market. Also, the infrastructure is not fully developed yet, which means there are a lot of places for us to grow. And secondly, we want to focus on Euro market because as my friend Sushawut has already said before, the presence in those markets is relatively weak, is very low, close to 0%. As well, we also have low penetration rate, as you can read on the slide, that is very low in some of the European countries, mean a lot of growth potential. So next, what will be the implementation? We want to focus on the future. We want to focus on wireless and 5G technology, and we choose to go into this market in the long term because then these technology would be ready when we want to go in. And this strategy would also enhance our localization, and then we can emerge as a leader. So that was my part of second strategy. Next, Agasit will talk about the synergy.
Okay, thank you, Sirin. For these two, executing these two strategy, we believe that there will be a complementary effect on these two strategies. For when we execute the rebuild trust, we believe that we will be able to gain the trust from the customer and gain the market share in that market. And when we gain more markets, the customer seeing that we become the leader in that market, they will then again trust us and become our customer. And therefore, with these two strategies complement each other, we will have a synergy effect of creating customer loyalty and sustainable growth. And next, after executing these two strategies, we will have a financial effect on our financial status. For the first one, when we focus on the global trend, we are able to capture the high growth market, which the wireless technology with 3G, 4G, and 5G with a 12% growth annually. And next, after we enter into new market segment of the product, we have diversification in three areas. The first one, when we enter into a new European market, we will have a diversify in the market segment. We have market segment, and second, in the business segment, as you can see, the revenue structure we have is mainly from the carrier segment. By entering into this enterprise solution and the customer solution, we have more diversity of our revenue structure. And lastly, for the carrier segment, by focusing in the wireless segment in the carrier, we have capture the high growth segment of the carrier and divesting in the less focused on the low declining trend of the carrier segment. And next, for the sustainable growth, by implementing these two strategies, we have some financial. How do we finance this growth? As you can see, the financial status of the Huawei, we have a healthy profit margin of 9.2% comparing to our competitor of 6.3%. We will be able to fund this internally and have sustainable growth. And next, for the extensive global supply, by entering into a European market first, with our current situation of having and lastly, we have an effective and efficient R&D division. And next, I would like to pass on to Shawut to wrap up.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we hope that you understand and agree with the strategies that we propose to Huawei. First, let me give you a very brief summary of our strategies. First, we want to rebuild the trust among the consumer and government. And secondly, we want to re-emerge as a world leader in the future. By applying these two strategies, we believe that Huawei can grow sustainably into the future. Thank you very much. And now the floor is open for Q&A.
Please begin the Q&A section. There will be 15 minutes.
Okay, let me ask first. In rebuilding the trust, you're talking about you focus on the customer and the government. But when I see your financial, you see that most of the revenue, more than 73%, has come from network carrier. Why don't you doing something on this network carrier in the trust rebuilding task? Because it seems that you don't cover anything about the network carrier on this area.
That's great. Because the first thing is we have in the case present, we have a problem with the government that they don't trust us, and this can lead to the government intervention to ban or prohibit us from making a deal with the customer, including the enterprise and network carrier. And so we think that this is the first problem that we need to solve first by building a trust with the government, and also next is for the network carrier. We think that what is going to be in mind with network carrier is about our reputation and also cyber securities. So we're going to communicate to them that we are really a global player and have a lot of reputation and also have trust with the government. By doing all this, we think that we're going to win the trust from our network carrier.
What is your team's view on transparency? You raised it, but is it a political problem or is it a social problem?
We think that it can be actually, because when we from the case and we see that there's mention about the cyber securities, it can be like either a political or social problem. So when we think that it doesn't matter which problem it's gonna relate with, but we think that if we show to them that we have a really transparency about this topic and they can check it, we think that this is gonna solve they're gonna solve this trust problem, no matter it's gonna be a political or social problem.
So my question is, thank you for the presentations. You mentioned about we need to earn trust from the government as well as from the customers. You talked a lot about what you want to do in terms of to rebuild trust from government and customers. But how do you link or make use of the environment in Canadian, such as the Canadian cultures, the market environment in Canada, so people can trust you more, rather than this is what I want to do, but whether the Canadian market will accept what you're doing?
This is really a good suggestion for us, and we think that this topic is really important. But if the case give us the insight about Canadian culture, of course we're gonna apply this to building trust with them.
And just to add on to that, we also consider the Canadian aspect as well. As Celine has mentioned in her second strategy, she said that we want to expand in other kind of products in the Canadian market. For example, in enterprise products and also in the handset product. All of them just to show that we're really committed to Canadian Canadian market. And when we build a very strong Canadian market, it can also signal other markets, other countries around the world that even Canada, one of the developed countries, accept Huawei company. So it also signals to other developed countries as well that we are trustable in the eyes of Canadian government.
But we agree that in the actual implementation state, we do need those market research to actually see into Canadians' people's behavior to fully capture the essence of our first strategy on actually building trust. But we think that what we are presenting actually covers a lot of element on trust, on transparency, and we think that is the goodwill, that is the message we want to present to Canadian people, and we think that it will get through.
What is your team's view on moving into segments such as managed services and perhaps software?
Um, Actually, according to the case, it has mentioned that Huawei is now providing managed service to the customer as well. So it's not that clear whether they sell this separately or it's just complement to the other products that they sell to the customer. However, yes, we also talking about that, but we also see that the other areas that we want to focus on right now are the consumer market like handset and also the enterprise products. There are a lot of rooms to grow on those two products.
And just to add on, I think maybe Huawei should concern, as you say, concern more about the software thing, because I'm really sure that to provide a customer with really great service and equipment, it requires the good software that run through all that equipment too. So we agree.
But other than the communication, because you mentioned that on building the trust, communication to the customer is very important. But other than communication, what other ways you will suggest to build up the trust in the customer group?
I think because what we sell is a product and the service to customer. So the trust, we will gain the trust from the customer directly and really effective from our quality of the product and service. So we think that the sustainable way to building trust with the customer is to provide them the high quality service and the product.
And also, we think that trust can be built through action. For example, we had already set up a lot of R&D centers in the city, and this can show that we have vested interest in the country. We want for long-term growth of the country, and we are building an innovation hub there. So in this case, we think that this is reinforcing with the idea of our trust.
So what do you think is the competitive edge of Huawei versus the competitors? If they want to win and if they want to be the world leaders?
Well, as I have presented to you at the very first place, that Huawei has a very strong competencies or competitive advantage from the fact that it can produce up-market equipment at a low cost comparing to other developed countries' players. So I think that that's the key competency that Huawei can leverage if they want to lead in the world market. As I have told, as we have suggested, that Huawei should enter European market, and actually, according to the case, Ericsson is right now the leader in European market. However, Ericsson produce product. I believe that Huawei can upgrade the product to be in the same standard or even better than Ericsson at lower cost in the future. So if from the first step we build trust among all governments and global markets, if European accepted us, then we can jump into the European market and use this cost competency, cost leadership approach to fight with Ericsson in the European market and expand globally. Yes.
Just to add on what my friend said, I think another small thing but really important that can make the Huawei a competitive advantage over its competitor is I can say good intention, because its strategy is about globalization. They want to invest, they want to build relationship and a long-term investment in other country. They don't just have the attitude or mission that, okay, I want to make money from that country, but I want to give something back to that country. And I think this is the way they're going to make a sustainable competitive advantage for Huawei.
Any comments on you talked about setting up R&D facility and the investments they made there. Any comments on the kind of employee profile that they should follow over there? What kind of ethnic mix or diversity mix should they be following in the R&D centers?
That's a really interesting question. Yeah. For the diversity in the employee profile, I think. Okay. For the diversity in our employee profile, I think that because as you can see from we really think this is an important issue because as see from the model like Silicon Valley, what makes Silicon Valley is really great place to work for an entrepreneur or for the entrepreneur or building startup, or it have a lot of knowledge there. What makes it really special is not about like American people there, but because there are a lot of diversity in there. People from China come to the Silicon Valley, people from India come to the Silicon Valley, and many other places to Silicon Valley. This makes Silicon Valley special and really different from the other areas. So we think that we should promote the diversity in our employee profile to promote to gather this great resource of knowledge to our companies.
So for your long-term and short-term strategy, do you think is it possible you can parallel to run this both strategy at the same time? That is, on the one hand, you penetrate, you to build the trust in Canada market, but on the other hand, you also can penetrate in Europe. You don't need to divide into short-term and long-term. Do you think this is a possible way to do that?
We think that it is a possible way. However, we do realize pros and cons of doing both. So first, right now, we think that the most important thing is to regain the market share in Canada. And in this case, after we have rebuilt trust, we need to go into the Canadian market first. While in Asia and Europe, we want to wait until we have enough infrastructure. For example, the idea of 5G as well the idea of wireless. So in that case, we want to go there and act as a first mover. That's why we want to wait in long term before getting into those markets.
So how long do you need to wait for that? From about 5 years later? Because the 5G is only available to Chou, right?
Yeah, the 5G is coming in 2020, so we think that is the right time for us to go there.
But right now, the mission of Huawei is to rebuild trust. So our strategy consists of two strategies. The first one, Huawei should rebuild trust first, not just only in Canadian market, but all over the globe. And then it can also expand to European market and other countries. So in the short run, they should focus on rebuilding trust.
And also, we think that by building a good reputation in Canadian market before going into Europe is a good idea, because we think that when people from Europe look to us and they think, oh, we haven't established the trust with the Canadian people yet, then they might not really trust us to be their mobile carrier. However, if we do it after we had established the trust, after we have reaffirmed our market position in Canada and go in there like a winner, we think that this is a better chance for us to win their hearts.
Do you think it is beneficial for Huawei to acquire a local Canadian company? In terms of these two objectives you have?
The benefit for Huawei?
For Huawei, if they acquire local Canadian companies through M&A?
Oh, I think yes, because first it's about trust, right? And to building trust, you have to have a local view of people, from the local people in our company. And by doing an acquisition, a local company, I think this is going to add the talented and local people in our company.
However, we see that there are barriers from doing that right now, because looking at the example of when Huawei entered the US, a lot of M&A and a lot of joint venture were prohibited because the US government do not really trust Huawei. And this also happens in Canada, so we cannot do things drastically. We want to regain that trust and make sure that we're doing this for their own good as much as we're doing this for our own good as well. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.